sogar gehabt. Das ist noch viel besser. Wir danken auch der DVPW, dass sie das uns ermöglicht hat. Und wir können natürlich uns jetzt die Frage stellen hier, und das tun auch viele der Papers, was bedeutet denn diese Zeitenwende und wie reagieren wir jetzt? Was kommt auch aus dieser Reaktion, aus dieser Unzufriedenheit mit der Wahrnehmung? Was kann die Politikwissenschaft und insbesondere auch die internationalen Beziehungen, was können wir leisten? Also offensichtlich hat der Kollege Münkler, der eben sprach, ja nur einen Teil als relevant betrachtet. Wir hatten schon mal so eine reaktive Situation und mir erlaubt es mir, das war tatsächlich vor der Mauer, wenn ich da kurz mich dran erinnere, da gab es nämlich, da wurde ein Buch verfasst, was ist und wozu brauchen wir die Politikwissenschaft? 1986, Elmar Altvater, Gott hab ihn selig, der mich damals unterrichtete, und Kollegen vom Otto-Suhr-Institut. Das war damals ja das renommierteste politikwissenschaftliche Institut, das einzige, wo man nur Politikwissenschaft studieren konnte. Was aber in diesem Buch auffiel, oder an dem Buch schon allein im Deckblatt, es war nur von Männern gemacht. Und wir haben dann darauf reagiert und haben ein Buch verfasst, das kam 6 Jahre später raus, und das hieß Der halbe Staat. Der halbierte Staat. Und das war mit Theresa Kulawik, Birgit Sauer und Brigitte Young. Und vor diesem Hintergrund ist dann tatsächlich in der DVPW, die wir heute sehen, der Staff, die gesamte genderkritische Abteilung, die wir eingezogen haben in die DVPW, die folgt dieser Reaktion. Also es gibt dann doch schon mal Wendepunkte. Ich will auch nicht sagen, dass das einzige war, aber es war doch, wo man sich dann fragt, Moment mal eben, kann denn das Feld, was ich studiere, zu dieser Weltsituation jetzt eigentlich gar nichts sagen? Und wir haben das, glaube ich, mit den Gender-Theorien damals ganz gut zeigen können. Und jetzt geht es eben darum, was können die Praktis-Theorien, was kann der Konstruktivismus, was können zum Beispiel Studien zu Emotionen und so weiter beitragen zu dieser Situation. Und die Tagung hier, die sich also von Twitter über Schlenker, Talkshows, das brauchten wir, glaube ich, auch, ein bisschen öffentlichen Druck und öffentliche Präsenz. Wir sind da auch sehr dankbar, dass es nach meiner Wahrnehmung auch die Richtigen gemacht haben, die sich auch wirklich, die sehr streitbar waren, Carlo und Nicole, ich gucke euch hier mal an. Das, finde ich, hat sehr gut geklappt. Und wir bringen jetzt also diesen Hintergrund zu unserer Thementagung hier in Hamburg. Jetzt könnte man sich fragen, was machen wir denn eigentlich legitimerweise? Ich darf ja hier nur 5 Minuten reden, dann kommt inhaltlich die Expertin für Ukraine und Ordnung, Maren. Ich möchte doch noch kurz erwähnen, als Normenforscherin habe ich ja doch festgestellt, dass es hier um eine Deep Contestation geht. Es geht an die Grundordnung, und das können wir mittlerweile, wir haben jetzt ein bisschen rumgespielt, die Idee, spricht ja auch viele an. Wir müssen uns die Frage stellen, ist das denn jetzt ein Einzelfall, die russische Aggression gegen die Ukraine? Nein, kann man sagen. Es ist eine zugespitzte Situation. Wir haben eine Kette von Normbrüchen, und zwar der massivsten Art, durch interessanterweise auch im nationalen Raum, durch westliche Staaten. Wir haben die Normbrüche in den USA durch Trump und Followers, aber auch viel näher dran. Boris Johnson in Großbritannien hat direkt vor unserer Haustür über den Kanal hinweg die Verträge gebrochen, die Vereinbarungen, die er, als die Tinte noch nicht trocken war. Und das sind Ketten, die Druck ausüben. Da können wir von der Normenforschung sagen, das ist eine Kette von Zuspitzungen, das könnte jetzt zu einer Critical Juncture führen. Das wissen wir aber natürlich nicht. Aber wir können gucken, dass es hier unterschiedliche Auswirkungen gibt durch diese Deep Contestation. Und das kann auf der einen Seite, das wurde bisher vornehmlich studiert, das kann degenerativ sein, destruktiv. Es kann aber auch konstruktiv sein. Und diese Frage würden wir gerne auch aufnehmen und vielleicht im Hintergrund betrachten. Wir haben angefangen mit einer Gruppe von Kolleginnen und Kollegen, unter anderem auch unterstützt von dem Berliner Exzellenzcluster, dazu zu arbeiten. Die Frau Leithoff ist auch dabei. Thomas Risse und auch die Herausgebenden von dem letzten IO, International Organization in Special Issue, wo die Kontestation sehr negativ betrachtet wurde. Wir haben aber auch die Autorinnen, die in diesem Heft, wie Tanja Dörze zum Beispiel, eine negative Interpretation hatten und sind durch die Auseinandersetzung dazu gekommen, wir wollen diese beiden Pfade verfolgen, degenerativ und konstruktiv. Und selbstverständlich ist das nicht nur die Normenforschung. Für mich hilft es, die Referenz zu Normen anzuwenden und zu gucken und als Kompass. Aber ich brauche das ganze andere Feld, inklusive Carlo, um diesen Kompass zu nutzen und zu gucken, womit ich da eigentlich hingehe. Und damit möchte ich auch schon aufhören. Und wir wollen heute auf dieser Tagung einfach sehen, ich habe tolle Papiere schon gelesen auf dem Panel, was ich kommentiere. Da haben sich wirklich die Kolleginnen und Kollegen Mühe gegeben, was Innovatives zu formulieren und neu zu denken. Und ich freue mich auf die Tagung und möchte erstmal alle herzlich willkommen heißen.
Ja, auf jeden Fall, dass ich jetzt vieles wiederhole, was Antje bereits gesagt hat, und das ist viel besser als ich, dann würde ich trotzdem gleich auch meinen Vortrag auf englischer Sprache abhalten, weil wir auch englischsprachige ZuhörerInnen haben und ich so inklusiv wie möglich sein möchte. Ich werde einen Vortrag von 10 bis 15 Minuten halten. Danach kommt noch eine kleine Housekeeping-Einheit von meinem Kollegen Jannis Kappelmann. Und danach werden wir noch das Geheimnis lüften um ihre Goodie-Bags, die von Pollux kommen. Pollux wird sich selbst auch noch mal vorstellen können, ist in der deutschen Politikwissenschaft noch viel zu wenig tatsächlich bekannt, obwohl sie großartige Arbeit leisten. Okay, das war jetzt der kleine Disclaimer. Ich würde jetzt sofort anfangen und auf Englisch switchen, wenn das so geht. Das ist eigentlich eine schöne Slide. Ja. Ich fange einfach mal an. Perfekt. Es ist alles anders geworden. Oder sind wir es, die anders wurden? Oder ist alles andere anders, als wir es sehen? Everything has changed. Or is it we who became different? Or is everything else different than we see it? I could have begun our welcome address today with a quote from Scholz's historic Zeitenwende speech he held just 3 days after Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. I could cite him obviously saying that we are living through a watershed era, which means that the world afterwards will no longer be the same as the world before. I'm obviously not. I'm beginning with a poem by Rosa Ausländer, the Jewish Austro-Hungarian that a Ukrainian artist and friend of mine recently used to open her vernissage. Read in light of Russia's invasion of Ukraine, her poem does not only capture the moment that Scholz identifies as the watershed that divides time into a before and after, it equally captures how Russia's brutal act of aggression against Ukraine has once and for all cast off the veil of certainty of Fukuyama's end of history narrative. The poem manifests what has been long in the making, and Antje said so before, a new obscurity and growing contestation of the post-World War II liberal international order. Putin's Russia is not the first and by no means the only actor in global politics to challenge the liberal international order. But his by now almost decade-long open aggression against Ukraine represents the most serious and blatant violation of the key norms, principles, and rules of international law. Sovereign equality and territorial integrity of states, the inviolability of borders, the prohibition of the use of force, and the principles and rules underpinning international humanitarian law. And as the atrocities in Bucha, Irpin, and Isium are coming to light and are being investigated, there is a high probability also that Russia has also committed crimes against humanity. Some commentators, like you, rightly submit that Russia's invasion has in fact brought about the opposite of what it had intended. Rather than furthering divisions, it was met by a united front at the UN General Assembly, condemning Russia's ongoing aggression against Ukraine, and it has also led NATO members to reaffirm their unwavering pledge to Article 5 of the Washington Treaty, and it even led to NATO's now historic future expansion with the two formerly neutral states, Sweden and Finland. Others, however, in turn, deplore Western states' blindness actually to their own colonial past and their double standards. They argue that the international rules-based order that is now to be defended never was a just and rules-based order from the very start, but it actually only served to further the interests of powerful states from the global north. This diversity of responses to Russia's all-out war on Ukraine from the global north and south must be acknowledged, and it must be examined in equal measure. But these differences, I believe, do not belie the more fundamental threats that Russian imperialism, and any imperialism really, poses to the very ontological security of Ukraine, the broader social construct of what we call the West, and also to the countries belonging to the global South. In the face of imperialism, any actor is actually tasked to grapple with some of the most existential questions. Who are we, and how do we actually define this we, with or against whom? And what are the moral values and key norms guiding us? Germany has often been portrayed as the sleepwalking giant that is now finally awakening. We've heard that from Herfried Münkler, from a decades-long dream rooted in a culture of anti-militarism, its strong commitment to multilateralism, as well as the pursuit of human rights, liberal democracy, and the rule of law, as part of the rules-based order. The belief in Wandel durch Handel has also characterized Germany's traditional Ostpolitik and up to now still characterizes its policy towards China. From historical institutionalism, we all know that institutions are sticky. It is therefore not surprising that Germany's foreign policy culture has only been very slow to adapt to the new post-Cold War realities. In that sense, we could say that Germany has acted just as untimely within this changing political context as Russia. But the pressing question that ensues in this moment of the so-called awakening is, will Germany eventually learn from its past failures? If it does, what lessons can we actually learn, or will it learn? Some of you present in the room have been rather pessimistic with regard to Germany's ability and its very willingness to learn, arguing that the struggle over the very meaning of Zeitenwende is wasting valuable time to engage in much needed policy reform. Some are more optimistic, seeing Scholz's Machtwort as a testament to abandoning Verbündets Ostpolitik, the long-standing principle of change through trade and civilian identity based on military restraint. But what follows from this radical shift for Germany's will and capacity to lead on the leadership, its capacity to take on the leadership role that its allies expect from it in the European security context? The words by Chancellor's Chief of Staff, Wolfgang Schmidt, 3 weeks ago at the Progressive Governance Summit in Berlin, kind of sows doubts on Germany's will to prudently lead. In his rather frank words, Schmidt likened Germany's global role to a hormone-filled teenager that does not yet know where its place in global society is. Well, at least Scholz pledged to create a 1 billion euros special fund for the Bundeswehr suggests that Germany has one less challenge to face. Germany's self-perception as a pacifist nation no longer needs to be reconciled with its allies' expectations to become more assertive militarily. We must not forget, however, that for this decisive shift in policy to be legitimate in the eyes of the German public, society must also unlearn decades-old and deeply ingrained societal beliefs in Germany's civilian identity. So if a change in Germany's politico-military culture depends in large part on the support by German society, what role does society, what role do we as political scientists and international relations scholars actually play in all of this? First off, did we sleepwalk into Russia's war in Ukraine, as Herfried Münkler claims? Should our currency be now the prediction of wars? Not only its analysis and explanation ex post, should we provide normative guidance, or rather policy advice, in times of widespread political uncertainty? And more fundamentally, we must obviously ask ourselves, what does this critical juncture in global politics reveal about the state of the art of the international relations discipline? Our federal president, Steinmeier, conceded 2 weeks ago that we must cast off old ways of thinking and old hopes, while leaving behind the idealism that allegedly underpinned both German foreign policy and foreign policy analysis over the past 3 decades, may mean that we need to become more realistic. We need to get ourselves fit for purpose, obviously, in the post-Cold War environment. But does this necessarily imply we need to fall back on the realist paradigm, just as Münkler prominently called for, a paradigm that has actually proven ill-equipped once before to both predict and explain the end of the Cold War? Does realism help make sense of Russia's invasion of Ukraine and possibly provide guidance as to how to prevent similar cases in the future? Luckily, it is not on me to decide this. Our conference will definitely serve as one of the sites in which to probe and contest this claim. And I'm glad that we actually have more than one panel to address this question from different perspectives. What I want to say for the moment is that we need to broaden our conceptual horizons of international relations theory and make IR less Eurocentric if and when we are actually confronted with a black swan event such as Russia's invasion. To do so, it is high time we acknowledge the pluribus of perspectives our German IR community has actually on offer that can fill the blind spots of dominant IR theory. And let me just point out 2 perspectives that have luckily gained greater traction in recent years. First, post-colonial and decolonial approaches. Since Russia's full scale of invasion this year, post-colonial approaches towards Eastern Europe are finally moving from the margins of IR to the center, showing that Russian and before that Soviet colonialism has been a painfully understudied subject in IR. In similar ways, it highlights that the agency of the Eastern European countries has been undervalued and systematically denied. Within the EU context, we could repeatedly witness from the 2010 onwards, when the calls by Central Eastern European member states to take the Russian threat more seriously, they were actually ignored and ridiculed. The same applies to today's war. Any call for a quick ceasefire to lower the risk of a Russian nuclear escalation must actually be read as a systematic denial of Ukraine's sovereign right of existence and thus of its agency as a nation with its own culture and identity. As much as we must guard against Russia's claim of its legitimate sphere of influence, we must actually avoid also falling into the trap of the classical geopolitical idea of Ukraine acting as a buffer zone between the so-called West and East. To do so, we must decolonize our Western ways of knowing that still dominate our profession and instead develop deep knowledge of the places that we study. And that means that we need to take area studies more seriously, just as Ashalia's global IR agenda calls for. And second and last, feminist theory. What we need is a clear stance. Our Foreign Minister, Annalena Baerbock, recently stated in her address at the Ambassadors Conference in Berlin in early September. So she called for a standpoint that reflects our normative convictions, as she says, when our freedom and our values are called into question. I believe feminist theory can furnish our foreign policy with such a standpoint, for it calls on all of us to radically listen to those affected by violence and deadly conflict. We need to bring in the standpoint of the marginalized voices, and not only women, in order to develop an inclusive dialogue and policy. And to do that, we need to leave behind the play of high politics and actually focus on those everyday contexts where politics is implemented and experienced. Our views will remain quite partial if we don't go this extra mile. So Zeitenwende has been falsely associated with just a mere moment in time, an instant break with the past. Understood as a turning point, however, it denotes the process of painful reflection that potentially, not definitively, triggers the agency to decide what we actually stand for and what we want to stand for. And this moment should not only be seized by our political elite to actually shape Germany's future foreign policy, but it should also be our joint task undertaken together with society to negotiate the new terms of our policy. And with that, I conclude and hand over to Jannis.
Thank you so much, Maren. Very, very interesting words and background for the conference. My name is Jannis Kappelmann. You have got emails from my side. And I will continue with that. Housekeeping, important things in life. So, a few words. We have a catering over there. We're all very much invited to grab whatever you want, and you can also go downstairs. There's a cafe there. Please don't go in the cafe with these catering items, but you can of course sit in the public space of the entrance of this building. We also have Wi-Fi here. You basically have two options. If you're from an institution that has EduRoam, use the EduRoam. If you're not from an institution that has EduRoam, we have Wi-Fi codes. My colleague in front of the registration will hand these codes over to you if you need them. We also have a new program. Of course, programs have to be updated all the time. Our newest program can be found on the website, and I sent it to you via email yesterday. Also, you may have asked yourself, why is this room rather small? And we have to say, it is. We're sorry for that. But unfortunately, this is also university. We have lectures here on Friday. We will have less of a problem going on with this conference because we have different rooms that are going to be free from Friday afternoon on. But now this is unfortunately what we're stuck with. Also in the rooms, we have a room change for panel 2. Please be aware that this is, and for panel 2, this is quite easy. Remember room 222. This is going to be upstairs. So you basically have to walk upstairs left, and then you're at room 222 for panel 2. Also, I'm not quite sure about you. I am now on Mastodon, but I'm also using Twitter. So if you're using Twitter, we are on Twitter. We have the hashtag DVPW-TT22, and we also have a Twitter takeover of the DVPW Congress account that we would like to invite you to share if you can. We also welcome the participants that are with us over Zoom online. Welcome. Hi. We hope that you can hear us well and see us well. All of this Congress will be recorded. We will then upload that on YouTube as well. And this will be live streamed on Zoom. Also, the Zoom participants at the panels are, of course, invited to ask questions and comment if they want. Now, you have all registered yourself, I hope, at the registration in front. You have got your name badges, and you have also got goodie bags. These goodie bags are the goodie bags from Pollux, our partner, that we would now like to have introduced. Pollux works in infrastructure and literature on political sciences, and we have Regina Pfeifenberger from Bremen with us, who we hope can say a few words in a second.
Yeah, can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So I start my slides. Okay. Yeah, thank you for the introduction and for the opportunity to introduce Pollux here, even if I have to try it to do it in 5 minutes. I'm sorry that my slides are in German, so there was no time to translate them in English. I hope it's okay for you. Yeah, I am Regina Pfeifenberger, and I am Public Relations and Open Access Officer. And since almost 2 years, I am also Interim Project Coordinator at the Specialized Information Service for Political Science, Pollux. So now I want to say a few words maybe to unveil the misery about what is Pollux. We are funded by the DFG since 2016, and there's a program from the DFG where are about 40 specialized information services from all disciplines. Currently, we are in the 3rd funding period until June 2025. And long-term funding for the program is intended, but yeah, we have to see if that will be really realized. Sorry. Pollux is jointly maintained by the Bremen State and University Library, where I am employed, and the GESIS Leibniz Institute for Social Sciences. And since October this year, the Research Data Center QualiService is our 3rd partner. And on this slide, you can see the network we are in. So what services do we provide? In the center, there's standing the literature search tool, Pollux. And Pollux contains around 8 million political science books, articles from journals and collective works in electronic and printed form from many libraries, databases, and open access, as well as research data repositories. The titles are either directly available electronically with one click, or they are listed in the portal with a reference to the owning libraries. Search queries or saving individual titles is just as possible as exporting title data for literature management programs such as Citavi or EndNote. And if you are registered with an account for political scientists, which I can warmly recommend to you, you can also access a variety of licensed ebooks and the press archive Factiva. And in addition, you can order books that have been only published in print and are not yet available in your library via Pollux, free of charge and for weeks, for lending directly to your home. We are also supporting open access. So you can transfer your publications from Pollux directly to the Social Science Open Access Repository, SSOAR, for open access secondary publication. And there's no registration with SSOAR required. We have also a small video for that, how to do it. We are also financing open access transformation for journals and books. For example, the Open Library Political Science from Transcript. I don't know if you know it. And we are offering open access infrastructure and also support for open access publishing. In the field research data management, we are cooperating with the National Research Data Infrastructure Germany, NFDI, in particular with Consort SWD. And QualiService, as our new project partner, has the goal to get the first point of contact for research data management of qualitative political science data. So they will work out workflows for expert interviews and documents. They want to prevent research data management tools for researchers, and we will do some workshops and support, and yeah, we have to do outreach to you. Now Mastodon, third time I think. A little outlook for what is planned in future. In short future, we will provide a Mastodon server for political scientists if you want to leave Twitter or get a second social media account. We will provide access to Politics. I don't know if you heard of it. It's a political monitoring of the Bundestag and German state parliaments, European institutions, association, and social media. And then we want to extend our search portal, including neighboring disciplines, include text corpora and research blogs as own media types. And a lot more is planned. Mm-hmm. Yeah, registering at Pollux is easy, fast, and free of charge. On your website, you can subscribe to our newsletter at any time, and you will find materials with further information about our services. Gladly also, you can reuse them in teaching. Questions and feedback can be sent to the Pollux team anytime by mail or via Twitter, and soon also via Mastodon. Yeah, and this is for us very important because it's the only way we can develop Pollux to meet your needs and to make it even better. Yeah, that was my little presentation. Thank you very much. And I don't know if there's little time for maybe some questions, if there are. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Regina Pfeifenberger. Unfortunately, we have a very, very tight program and have to move on. But we really thank you for that. I think that's an amazing opportunity to look into us for all of us political scientists. We now carry on and properly start with the program and go deep into the matter. At 1 o'clock, you find the panel Past, Present, and Futures of Russia's War on Ukraine in this room. And Frank Stengel will share with contributions from Damaris Braun, Sebastian Hoppe, Hubert Zimmermann, and Tim Bücher.
And in the other room?
In room 222. Perfect. I said it's easy to remember. So room 222 is panel 2. Chaired by Tobias Bunde. Anna Pfeiffer is the discussant. And there we have contributions by Anna Geis, Christopher Dahl, Julia Reininger, and Martin Kahl on the limits of democratic peace, liberal theory reconsidered. So please choose your panel, and we are looking forward to next debate.